and welcome to this, and this is my review for Ring of Honor's pay-per-view Caged Collision. Most of you probably didn't even remember it was on, probably because this pay-per-view has been very much forgotten, and for good reason. Pretty much after this was taped, just looking at the, even though I don't trust a lot of people anymore when it comes to live reports, just looking at the matches itself, it was pretty evident to me that this would probably be the worst Ring of Honor pay-per-view that they put on. It was actually a little worse than I thought it would be, because I thought, even to me, the worst pay-per-view up to this point, Undeniable, was still, pretty damn good for a pay-per-view. But this to me was just an okay pay-per-view at best. Almost, well, I should say at best, because I thought it was almost good, but not nearly to the level I think Ring of Honor needs to be. However, being someone that was at the pay-per-view that will be after this, that pay-per-view is much better. That pay-per-view is anywhere from very good to great, depending on how things kind of show up on the pay-per-view. So there is that. But let's get started. We started with Kenny King versus Alex Payne versus Silas Young in a three-way. Normally I would complain about these three guys being on pay-per-view, but given the fact that I do like Kenny King a lot, I think Kenny King is a future star in the making, and the fact that you had 10 guys basically busy with the main event, I didn't have too much of a problem with this. And this was a pretty good match. I wouldn't call it a good match, but per se, but I did think it was a good opener. I'd give it 2 3/4 stars. I think they went out there. This was your basic X Division type opener that TNA puts on. Probably not quite as good, but I don't think, with the exception of Kenny King, I don't think these guys are as good as most of the guys in the X Division. So, but still, good, fast-paced, and pretty enjoyable, and I enjoyed it. Then we got Kevin Steen versus Claudio Castagnoli, a match that on paper looked like it should have been pretty good. But I think Kevin Steen was hurt at this point. Just watching the match, he was kind of not in full stride. I would say he was chop-stepping a lot and kind of moving kind of gingerly. But it was still an okay match, not a great match. They tried to do a lot of things. Kevin Steen, I will say this, didn't look good in this match very much as far as body-wise. He doesn't have the pro wrestling chiseled body, but his belly looked pretty jiggly during this, so that was not good either. It was noticeable, and when it's noticeable, that's not too good, just from my perspective. But there was that. They went out there. They did hit some pretty good stuff, and it was okay. Nothing great. There wasn't a lot of heat behind it. It was just kind of their match, which is kind of surprising because these two probably could have put on a much better match. And not the match I probably would put on this card, but I will get to that later. Next we had NECRO Butcher and Jerry Lynn versus Brody Lee and Delirious. This was okay. I'm not too big, really. I love NECRO Butcher, but I'm not too big on him on in Ring of Honor. It's kind of the same thing with Brody Lee. I'm a big Delirious fan, of course. And I like the end segment where Daisy Hayes accidentally spites Delirious. Jerry Lynn was just kind of there, I think, to fill a spot in a lot of ways. This was okay, kind of what you would expect, kind of a brawl, trying to be a brawl/wrestling match. It really didn't work that way. Necro was at his best when it's just a pure-out brawl with all sorts of hardcore stuff. And they did kind of that, especially with him and Brody Lee, but it just was kind of just a mismatch of stuff and really didn't come across as good as it probably should have. But 2.5, it was okay. Then we had Jimmy Jacobs and Austin Aries versus Tyler Black and Bryan Danielson. This was very good. I wouldn't exactly say great. We did have a run-in, but it was a run-in that made some sense. We had Bison Smith coming in and attacking Bryan Danielson, which the announcers explained, and has been kind of a long-stalling feud, in which we got Jimmy Jacobs, Austin Aries, and Tyler Black. This was to set up, kind of a #1 contender, call your own shot type of thing, and was good and very good, very enjoyable, with the exception of kind of the run-in, which kind of took away from it, but still a very good match of the night, and not too surprising involving who this was. It was a four-corner, not a four-corner, but I guess it was, yeah, four-corner survival, I guess, and which I'm not too big on. You know, I'm not too big on the 4-ways with tag rules. This is not my thing, really. Then we had Nigel McGuinness versus El Generico in a good match. I complained about this on Glory by Honor. You know, this is a pay-per-view. If this was, like, their first match was just on a regular DVD, which is fine. This really should have been Nigel McGuinness versus Kevin Steen. To me, Kevin Steen is the bigger star. El Generico, I know a lot of people love him. A lot of people, you know, he's over. But I don't think you look at him as a star and as a guy that you go, oh, that would be, you know, I don't think it doesn't look like a pay-per-view match. Nigel McGuinness versus Kevin Steen, in my opinion, looks more like a pay-per-view match. Given the fact that, you know, Steen did look hurt, this would probably be a better choice, but I'm just saying. I think El Generico and Claudio probably could have put on a much better match than Steen and Claudio did. And I think Nigel and Steen could have put on just probably as good of a match, even if Steen was hurt, as Nigel and El Generico did. So there was that. It was a good match, though, kind of back and forth. El Generico playing kind of this spunky, you know, challenger. And, you know, I've seen the match before. It was as good as I thought. Maybe a little better, but, you know, it was still in my opinion. So big. Then we had Steel Cage Warfare, which I was looking pretty forward to. They definitely were running out of time, you could tell, so the match was rushed, which was a big faux pas here. They included kind of the, you know, explaining the rules of the match. Problem is they explained the rules of the match and said there'd be a 3-minute intermission between each guy coming in. Well, then after the first segment and the guy came in, we got like 30-second segments, which didn't make any sense whatsoever. They should have, you know, cut that first part out, just had the guys in the ring, have the announcers basically say, here are the rules, guys are going to come in, kind of make rules up, I guess, just to kind of cover the fact that I'm sure they were running out of time, I'm sure why they did this. It didn't really take away from the match per se, but it did, I think, kind of hurt the match in a lot of ways. So we got all the guys in there. Adam Pearce was kind of a surprise entrance at the end. And he bled and got beat up all over the place. Pretty good match. We had a wicked chair shot by Roderick Strong onto Eddie Edwards. The chair broke into pieces. Pretty wicked. We had an insane dive by Jay Briscoe. Lots of, you know, guys getting thrown into the cage. The end of the match was finally Bobby Dempsey kind of being a man and getting his revenge on Larry Sweeney. So all that worked. I thought it was a good match. I actually kind of, you know, I thought it was good. I wouldn't call it great. I didn't think, I've seen some people say they were kind of disappointed in it. I was disappointed in it, but I still thought it was a good match. You know, 3 stars I'd give it because I thought it was okay for what it was, but probably still not as good. My biggest real complaint with this is the fact that they did do an angle with Nigel and Tyler Black, and Tyler kind of challenged Nigel, and then Nigel kind of squirmied away. I really think at the end of the night, what they needed to do was maybe cut off one of the earlier matches and have Tyler come out at the end of the night in the cage, say that, you know, he wanted Nigel in the cage for his title match so that Nigel couldn't get away, and have Tyler go over this night. I think this was the right night for Tyler to go over. He didn't. I think they've kind of missed the boat on Tyler, so, you know, it was what it was. I'd give this a 6.75. Like I said, without a doubt, the worst pay-per-view Ring of Honor has put on. I think a lot of the matches, I wouldn't, you know, a lot of the matches just kind of fell short of what they really could have been, to be honest. And hopefully, I'm hoping the pay-per-view I went to is really the last taped pay-per-view they do. If they're not going to do live pay-per-views, and if they keep doing TV, I think they just need to keep doing TV and not do the tape pay-per-views myself. I think they've kind of gone as far as they can go with the tape pay-per-views. I kind of thought that after them doing a year of tape pay-per-views, now we're going to go on to over 2 years of, you know, tape pay-per-views. I think that's a little much myself. But, you know, and, you know, with the TV thing and them still wanting to stay a DVD-based promotion, you know, I'm not big into staying into the DVD-based promotion, because I think that in 2009, I don't think it's a viable option. I think it's much too easier for people to get the DVDs other ways, and because of that, I think that you have to kind of find other ways to make money off of your stuff. If that means putting it up on the web, I really think, particularly with the video wires, one thing I've said about this, after Gabe left, the video wires got much better, but I think still the video wires are only where I think, to be honest, they should have been probably in 2007. I think they're still about 2 years behind of where they should have been, particularly when you look at Chikara and you look how well, their Chikara podcast is, considering that it's less than 10 minutes. I think they do a much better job of promoting and advertising their shows than Ring of Honor does, who I just don't think does as good enough job. And I think, like I said, I think they're still back where they were in 2007 as far as that goes. I think it should be far beyond that. I really think their weekly video wire should almost be 45 minutes and include a couple of full matches, probably stuff that was on an undercard of some of the DVDs, and just stick that, on the up on here on YouTube or wherever, just to kind of get the storylines across. Maybe put half matches up, that sort of thing. I just feel like they're just not. They haven't progressed as far as technology-wise as they should have. I really think that for a long time, I think in 2007 they were doing, or 2006 they were doing a good job, and there was a long gap. And I think after Gabe left, I think they kind of made a couple of strides better, but not nearly as good as they should have. And I still think that they're still probably 2 years behind of where I think they should, as far as that part of it goes, as far as how they should be using the internet, how they should be using YouTube, how they should be using the video wires, and all of that sort of thing. That's just my take on it. Like I said, the next pay-per-view, because at the next pay-per-view, will be very good to great, depending on how it comes across. But it was very good. I was there. This was not, without a doubt, the weakest pay-per-view they have put on. But I guess that was bound to happen sooner or later. So there we go. I'm out, and later.